PSI tools are something, I refer to them as non-psychometric interpretive tools. Unlike Myers-Briggs or psychometric tools, when you get the results, there's no interpretation. You're not involved in the results. PSI is very much user-driven. So your in-depth interpretation, you'd go through it and you would keep what you agreed with, and you would set aside what you don't agree with, which is very unlike psychometric. The PSI tools are basically designed to determine how it is that you prefer to communicate. Communicate with your physical world and communicate with humans. It's strictly preference. Okay? It's not your personality. So if you have a PSI, in this case it's BIA, that's your PSI. If you had two people with the same PSI, they could very well have different personalities. They would communicate the same. If, for example, someone was born with polio and had the same PSI, you'd have different personalities. Your education levels will change with your personality. Trauma, and trauma can be both positive and negative. Trauma being you grew up in Beirut during the wars, or you won the lottery. There's certain things, traumas that happen that can mold your personality. Your environment, whether you grew up in South Central Los Angeles or you grew up in West Van, will have a different. And your self-worth, which ebbs and flows regularly, changes regularly, right? So I find that these change regularly. PSI doesn't really change. It's as a cradle to grave. The environment in which you were raised, you can't really change that. And your bio, for the most part, doesn't change unless, for example, later in life you had a stroke. Then that could actually affect, right? But you still have a preference. This is pretty much set. How it is that you like to give information, how you like to receive information, right? Your PSI in this particular case, what was it? It was 46. 46, 42, and 26, I think it was. When going through the particular styles, the magic number is 40. Any score above 40 is a natural tendency and strength of yours. 35 is kind of a crossover line. If you've got something above 35 in this zone, you can access it, but not at a great length of time. So your primary strengths are B, I, and A. B and C is left hemisphere of the brain. I and A are right. The right side is people. The left side is task and physical world. B is non-verbal, predominantly non-verbal. C is all verbal. I, non-verbal. A is verbal. The best teachers are people that are verbal, obviously. They talk for a living. And the two kinds of teachers are C teachers, A teachers, or a combination thereof. When I first started using these tools, the first thing that dawned on me is when I was teaching back in Toronto. I was teaching this sales course, and my score is very, very high. I got a 50A, and I loved it. I loved teaching. It was an awesome experience. Dad, is this going to affect your ability to if you're going to concentrate more on filming than you are about concentrating on this. And
No, I'm watching this too.
Okay, okay. And I loved it. And the guy I worked for, Bill, would monitor my performance. He's the one who trained myself, John, and Danny in this 40-hour course, right? And I remember him as a teacher. He would stand up there at the front of class and he would open up the manual and he would go through it page by page, word for word, with very little expression. Very linear in his path, in his process, where mine was much more creative, much more engaging, much more entertaining. At the end of when I would get up to the sessions, he'd sit at the back of the class, and I would ask Bill. I said, "So, how was it?" And he'd give me advice like, "Well, I think you should button up your jacket." And I said, "Okay." And the next day, I would ask him, "What do you think?" He goes, "Well, about hour 2, page 6, paragraph 4, I would have said it this way." And he would point out one thing. And anyway, it was a very engaging class. There was about 30 guys in the class, and we had role-playing and videos and covered off the material, and it was very exciting, a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, and a lot of hype. And we'd get so carried away that teachers from other classrooms would come over and tell me to keep it down, right? It's a room full of car salesmen, future car salesmen, so it was to get them excited and pumped about the processes that we were teaching them. Anyway, about 4 months into it, out of the blue, he called me in his office and I got fired. And I was devastated. I had gone from making 10 grand a month to literally 5 grand a month. I cut my salary in half to take this job. It was a Monday to Friday job. Got to see Mary Margaret Walker. And I was stunned that I got fired. Managers at the other stores and salesmen absolutely couldn't believe I was fired. I figured it was politics. He thought I was a rising star and I was after his job. At the time, I didn't even know he was my boss. I thought we were partners. I didn't know he was actually, I reported to him. I thought I reported to someone else. Anyway, about 2 years later, when I was finally exposed to this through Connie, when I did the particular program, I realized that he was high C in his teaching. And I was high A, and that he actually fired me because he actually thought I was a lunatic. He actually thought that I was not imparting knowledge to the students. One of the founders of this, Everett, wrote a book called Why Aren't You More Like Me? Well, this teacher taught high C, and he assumed that everyone else was high C. And we do that. In the Bible it says treat others as you want to be treated. Well, it's actually wrong. You should treat others as they want to be treated, not how you want to be treated. So in particular cases of this high C is you assume everyone's like you except they're lazy, they're stupid, or they're arrogant, or they're mean, when in fact they would process information differently. So he couldn't see it. He actually, in his heart of hearts, thought he was doing the company a service by letting me go because my teaching techniques were off. When in fact most of the salesmen in the room were not high C. Most of the salesmen in the room were high A and high B. So they actually got what I was saying. What they didn't get is they didn't get what he was saying. But I didn't know that for a couple of years. So when I'm doing this, I was able to go back and literally forgive and understand why I hated certain guys or figured I got screwed. When in fact I didn't get screwed. It's just that I didn't know who I was dealing with. And so this was 20 years ago. So I've been fascinated by these particular tools, right? So at the end of the day, it is to use the tools to help better understand how it is you could possibly shift your approach to dealing with certain individuals, understanding certain customers, right? And if you're good at it, what you can do is you can suspend or shift your style to the audience in which you're dealing with, right? So if you have someone, for example, who's high C, if you're dealing with someone who's got high C and you're flippant or quick with your information, I'll give you an example. You tell them a story that you're driving across California and you're driving a 1985 Volkswagen Bug. You just say a thing off the cuff. You're driving and you're going, Highway 66 or Route 66, and you got your 85 Bug, right? If the guy's got high C and he knows that they didn't make the Bug in 1985, of course your trip's got nothing to do with the car you were driving. You just were loose with your information. He's going to say, well, hold on, they didn't make the Bug in 1985. Even though your whole story is about your journey, not about the car. He is going to say, you know what, this guy's fast and loose with his information. I'm going to be suspect of everything he says from this point on. Right? Either I'll shut down going, you know what, he's lying to me. Right? Is that you're lost, you're gone. From that point on, that person, you sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. They won't get it. Right? Another example, in my case, if I got a phone call and someone said, come over to West Van, there's a pot of gold waiting for you, I wouldn't even have hung up, and I would have grabbed my keys and would have been out the door. But if I'm with someone who's high C, they're going to say, well, where are we going? We're going to West Van. Let's go, hurry, let's go, we gotta get the money. We'll say, well, whose car? Oh, let's take my car. What route are we taking? And I'm going out of my mind, it doesn't matter. The end result is, we're here, we're going to get there, let's just move in that direction. Right? Someone who's high C, no. They can only see things in a linear path. They can't skip a step. You skip a step, you'll shut them down. They need to understand a process, a step-by-step process, one in front of the other. It's a linear, logical approach. People of the right brain are, and sometimes B, they prefer to see the end result first. And then they know where to go, right? That's why when it comes to time, people of high B can see the future. People A can see the future. People who have high C, high I cannot see the future. They don't process future. Okay? So someone who's got high B, a classic example of this would be, is it Gillen, the developer? They have a vision. When they're on their game, they can see something. They make good generals, and they make good land developers because they have a vision. They're going to develop this waterfront property. They're going to develop something. They have a vision, and then they act in the present because they're acting to build this vision that they have in their head. They can see the end result. They go to work every day to build what they vision. Someone who's B and is off their game is because they don't have a vision in their head. That's often when they get derailed. Okay? A's, on the other hand, what they do is they can read the present situation. They can read the papers, they can go into the marketplace, they can read the tea leaves of the day and predict where the future's going. Right? Guys like Drucker or Seth Godin, that sort of stuff, or in a lot of my research, I can sense what's going on and say, you know what, this is where it's going. When interest rates dropped drastically in 2001, I knew right then and there that the buying power on a mortgage is going to send real estate prices to the roof. That's why we jumped on it immediately when interest rates dropped to buy the house on the west side for $380. Because I knew just the way money worked, the buying power was going to drive it way up. That's why we bought the house 10 years ago, because I could sense it. This is usually people who have a vision by reading what's going on today. Anyway, people with IC, you bring up a story, they know something, they'll always say, that this was like then, this was like that, this was like this was like that, right? People high I have no concept of the past, no concept of the future. They strictly, all their time references is now. Just now, okay?